Welcome back to Make Good Choices Monday. I'm Becky Amio, and if you want to see how I turn this tie rail into a helicopter, stick around. I'm going to get into it right now. So when I first came here to Lowing Ranch, this tie rail was one of the first things they put in for me. Now, these railroad ties are sunk 6 foot in the ground. This is heavy-duty irrigation pipe, and I knew I wanted the pipe up high for the top rail so that when horses sat back, they didn't get as much leverage, because the higher you can tie, the less leverage they have when they sit back. I knew I wanted a rail down here so they couldn't go underneath the rail. I didn't want them to be able to knock their saddle off or scratch their saddle up or any of that. Now, over the years, we've had to backfill with dirt and gravel, and you can see where they stand. There's divots where they've stood here and pawed, and every year Bernie or JD will come through and they take the tractor and push the dirt or gravel back up and try to backfill it for me, and we kind of go through that pattern every single year, maybe a couple times a year. Anyway, so the first time we tied up to it, after JD had the pipe on this side and he had clamps across right here, I had a big gelding back in for training that I was doing a tune-up on. He was getting sold and he was going to go down to Nebraska, and I had rode that gelding when he was 3 and he was still a stud then. Since then I've ridden a couple of his offspring. They're really cool, and he was a really cool dude. But anyway, I had a 2-year-old gelding standing tied right here, the kind that, you just kind of wanted to retire on. He was just so good-minded and quiet. And I was brushing both horses up, and JD was standing over by the tack room, and we were visiting about something, and this big gelding spooked at something, and he decided to sit back. And boy, did he sit back. And he ripped this whole entire tie rail off the posts and took this poor little 2-year-old colt with him. And have you ever helped your friend move furniture or something, and you're not really a lot of help, but you're kind of just balancing? You're not really doing the heavy lifting part, but you're balancing. Well, I think that's kind of what this colt's deal was, is he was just balancing the pipe for the big guy when the big guy brought it, sat back with it, and took it. And I tie hard. I tie with halters and lead ropes that are not going to break. My stuff does not break. I absolutely do not negotiate with terrorists when it comes to tying. Now, Fun Size does not tie, and that's a whole other story. And if you guys want to hear the Fun Size story, leave me a comment down below. That's my personal horse. But I digress. So this guy, he was tied hard, and we were taking the whole rail with us, and I was in the middle of the two of them. And this whole rail, we went back, and we started spinning, and I just kept on spinning with them and spinning with them, and I think about the third revolution, I got out from underneath, and they ended up clear all the way out here with the little guy standing on the left and the big guy standing on the right here, holding that pipe rail. And I got out of it somewhere back here, and JD's standing there watching the whole time, and he's helpless to the entire thing. And all I could do is undo the little guy first to get him out of there, and then I was able to undo the big guy, and JD watched the whole thing go down, and normally he doesn't get to watch all the trouble I get into with myself, and he went, well, we're going to fix that. And so, thankfully, nobody got hurt. This is one of those times that nobody got hurt, me or the horses. And so what he did is he put the rails on this side of the railroad tie, and since then, he has, obviously, you can see the way he's chained everything on here, and he's got the clamps on the other side. There's still some things that could be fixed about this tie rail. I think every situation has some things that could be fixed about it. There is no perfect way. This is what has worked for me for 6 years now, and I don't have a wall to tie them to. I don't have a tall post that's sunk into the ground that I can tie them to and then have them spin circles around that pole. I don't have a big tree to tie anything to. You make the absolute best that you can with the resources you have provided and the circumstances that you're in, and that's the best advice that I can give you. If any of you are aspiring horse trainers or horse enthusiasts, when you go back and you look at the stuff that you have at home and what you're working with, you kind of, take a look at it and kind of see, okay, what's the worst that could happen if they were to get in a wreck? And sometimes that's the way I look at a lot of things when I get ready to do something. I mean, I don't just approach everything with a hold my beer and watch this kind of attitude about it. I kind of go, okay, let's weigh out worst case scenario. Hope for the best, but expect the worst and plan for what you're going to do in case the worst happens. I can tell you that, I every once in a while I'll have somebody somehow hang their halter. It's usually around one of these end posts here. They'll hang a halter or a lead rope right around this area. And I have had some rub the halter so bad that they do tear a side of the halter, and then that halter is trash, and I order a new one from the gal that makes halters for me. It's Keitha Arthur, Handcrafted Jewels. You could check her out on Facebook. She's the one that makes all of my equipment for me, and the stuff fits and the stuff works. And so, usually that's what happens is it gets torn by the wood. That's generally how I end up, breaking something. I'll have them sometimes hang up the lead rope really short around a corner, like it'll be a little bit looser, and they'll kind of wrap it around this way because they're screwing around. And it shortens them up, and they're not expecting their lead rope to be that short, and they'll panic a little bit. Another problem that I've had with these railroad ties is I've had a horse standing here tied with the saddle on as a colt. He was standing there with my beater colt saddle on, and he sat there and rubbed the fender on this railroad tie, and he just really trashed the leather on the fender, and it was just ugly to look at. It was just an eyesore. But, it's a beater saddle anyway. So that's kind of what has happened, over the years. I've never had a horse break its neck on this tie rail or anything like that. I've had stuff rear up and go over top and, kind of hang up over top for a little while. I might have a picture of that. I'll be sure to include it if I've got that picture handy.
Editing Becky here. When they get over the tie rail like that, I tend to just stand back and let them work it out on their own. I don't try to get in there and get involved. They've got to be really hung up bad with legs wrapped around the rope and whatnot in order for me to get in there and cut the lead rope or cut their halter off. Otherwise, I just kind of stay back and let them work it out. They usually figure it out on their own.
Yeah, I can tell you that I've tried some of the other tying techniques. I try looping it around a couple of times, and that works for a little while until horses learn that they're not tied. They're not tied hard, and then they just kind of stretch it out until they pull it off, and then they're like, oh, I'm going to go. See you later. And there's that other tie ring that they have on the market that looks like a half of a snaffle, and you loop your lead rope through. That's all fine and good, but once they know that they're not tied, they still just kind of pull through it, and they kind of leave you. I don't like them to be able to leave me. I don't like it when, they're too smart. They're just too smart for their own dang good, and they figure it out pretty quick. So I need a horse to stand there reliable for me. There's days when you haul and they're going to be standing tight at the trailer, and you've got to go up and enter. You have to go see what number they're on in the draw. You have to be able to leave your horse tied at the trailer, and they've got to be reliable. So, let me know about your guys' wrecks tying your horses. I'd be interested to hear something that you've had happen to you, but boy, that could have been a whole lot uglier than it was. And thankfully, I did not get hurt, and neither did the horses. And the tie rail is still around to tell us stories about it. So I hope you guys have a great day and make good choices. And drop me a comment. Don't forget to subscribe. Share this video with a friend. Have a great day.